What is up, sports bettors? Happy Friday evening. We are going to be talking about making money sports betting. So, we're going to hit some bets. I put an article kind of about the math behind sports betting that maybe is useful to read. But, anyways, we can go ahead, we can dig into it and hit some bets. So, as a sharp bettor, we're always looking for value, right? We're always looking for value in the odds. Unfortunately, I can't play college football player props, but there are a lot of them out there, so I wish I could. But we can try to find some, bets, some good picks kind of for the upcoming games and see if we find anything. So, as an example, one of the tools I like to use is the arbitrage betting tool. And the reason is just like what this tool does is it just kind of shows you line discrepancies where you could bet on both sides of a market if you had both sports books to make a risk-free profit, right? So we have tons of tutorial videos on this, but like for George Pickens over 3.5 receptions on Bet Online, you're betting 100 to win 135 in profit. Betting 100 to win 135 in profit. On the under, you're betting 125 to win back 100 in profit. So you're betting 100 to win 135 and 125 to win 100. So you can bet on both sides and earn a risk-free profit. That is called arbitrage. So we have a tutorial video on that as well, which is pretty useful. And I definitely think if you're new to sports betting, kind of understanding how sports betting is a market and stuff like that, it should be helpful. So anyways, let's go ahead. Let's get back to it and let's hit some bets. So as an example, maybe the way we want to start out sports betting today is like, whatever, like Nico Collins as an example. I don't really use these sports books in New York because they offer lower betting limits, but his over 3.5 receptions is plus 160 on PointsBet. I also actually previously bet this. So I got to log back into Caesars, but I previously bet this at plus 165 odds or something like this. We can take a peek. So let me open it up. And let's see what we got. So I previously bet this, so I'm not going to rebet it. But if you want to bet it, it's obviously a good bet. I bet this plus 165 on Caesars for $500. You can see now Caesars is all the way down to plus 100. Pretty big difference, to say the least. Plus 100 versus plus 165, where I just bet it. So we'll see if we can find anything interesting out there. But you got Marvin Jones. You got a bunch of plays out there. Trevor Lawrence over 1.5 passing TDs, another play on PointsBet. Line discrepancy, you could arbit with Pinnacle, earn a risk-free profit. But also, just looking at the data in the market, every sportsbook has the over for Trevor Lawrence's passing touchdowns heavily favored, right? Minus 136 on Pinnacle, minus 122 on Bet Online, minus 121 on Caesars. So, like, you have all these sportsbooks telling you, hey, the over for passing touchdowns should be favored. We're getting it plus 100 on PointsBet. It's like, yeah, I mean, that seems pretty good. Oklahoma plus 8.5. I'm pretty sure I maxed this. We can take a peek. We got the Padres on the first half run line. Pretty sure that's about to cash. So that's pretty cool. But what we can do is we can see, did I max this? Yeah, I maxed it already. But Oklahoma plus 8.5. This spread has been moving all around. Lines rip towards Texas. They're moving back towards Oklahoma. And what's crazy is WinBet is offering minus 102 vague juice, right? A lot lower juice, like 1/5 of Caesars, right? Just a lot lower juice. So we've been able to get down on Texas. We were able to get minus 7.5, and then we absolutely maxed Oklahoma, I think, plus 9. So we can actually see plus 9 is what we bet. So we have a huge middle betting opportunity on, which is sick. Because if Texas wins by 9, our point spread bet hits, our Oklahoma plus 9 will push. So lines have been ripping, which is why it's really useful to kind of like follow the line movements, right? In real time. So here you got some college football player props, whatever, like tons of opportunity. So here it looks like lines are moving towards the Browns, I guess. And let's see what else we like. So, like, as an example, maybe the Singletary one, it's like whenever you have arbitrage, like here, it's like for Singletary, his rush attempts, you can bet the over on FanDuel, the under on Bet Online, and you can earn a risk-free profit. So we know by definition, one of these bets has to be profitable. So what you can do is you can just like try to tease out like, okay, like what do we think is profitable? So you can kind of click into it, make a betting decision based on the data you see. Like sports betting is all just about being rational, right? Treating every bookmaker kind of like, an independent data point. Where should the line be set? We know Bet Online is a super sharp offshore sports book. Caesars a little less so. FanDuel a little less so. So like you kind of like treat every bookmaker as a sense of like, okay, where should the lines be, right? And you try to tease that out. So it's all about using all the data in the market. Like there's millions of dollars bet on the NFL. It's a super, efficient betting market, whatever you want to call it. Like there's a lot of action going on. So being a profitable sports bettor, like the much easier path as opposed to being like, oh, I'm going to create my own model or I'm going to watch a bunch of highlights of football and try to beat the market. Like that's so hard. Whereas the easier way to do this is just be like, hey, James Conner under 3.5 receptions is minus 122 on underdog in a 3-pick or a 5-pick entry, right? So underdog fantasy, we have some strategy articles. Let me just put them in here. If you're curious about learning about prize picks, what's up, Michael? If you're curious about learning about prize picks or underdog fantasy, that article is pretty useful. But essentially, like for a 3-pick entry on underdog, you're getting minus 122 implied juice. So much better than a 2-pick where you're getting minus 137. So here it's just kind of like, okay, Pinnacle's pricing James Conner under 3.5 receptions at minus 152. DraftKings minus 185. Caesars minus 157. Every sportsbook in the market is telling us, like the under should be heavily favored. So I'm not trying to like be smarter than the entire sports betting market, which is taking millions of dollars of bets. I'm just being rational and saying, okay, well, based on all this information I have available to me, I know this minus 122 or including the under in a prize picks 3-pick or 5-pick flex play looks great as opposed to the article exactly like the article says, right? And you can also open up, kind of other, sports books to check out the odds. And it's pretty clear, like every sports book has the under 3.5 receptions heavily favored. Prize Picks has the line at 3, so lower, and you can take advantage of that. So let's go back to New York. See if we can find anything. And what other bets do we have on for tonight? We just got the Padres. I guess there's not much college football. Betting exchanges are different than traditional sports books because they're peer-to-peer betting. So it's very different than a sports book, actually. So like on here, you're betting against not, Betfair. Like you're not betting against the sports book. When you bet on DraftKings, like it's you versus them. When you're betting against the exchange, it's you versus another person, another counterparty. And that counterparty may be a person. It may be a model of some guy that's pricing things and whatever. Like it could be, but you're not betting against Betfair. The way they make money, Betfair Exchange, is they just like charge a fee, right? So essentially, you're betting against other people. But what you'll notice is if you look far in advance, like if you look at AFC conference winner, like there's not much money being bet on a lot of these things, right? Like in general. So like AFC conference winner, the Broncos, you could bet plus 128 for $62 only. Terrible. So there's not a lot of like liquidity or action or volume. Whereas as you get closer to game time, what you'll notice is for at least the major sports, there's a ton of action. So even if we go to like, American football, NFL, for the upcoming weekend, you'll notice on Sunday, like there's a lot more action. You can get down thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Yep. What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? So, anyways, let's go back to it and let's see if we can find anything exciting out there. First quarter point spread bet. Again, it's just like, okay, like this bet looks great to Caesars. 20 cents, is kind of the width of their market. So plus 126, we're definitely beating the VIG. Plus 126 definitely looks great to DraftKings, definitely looks great to Pinnacle. Okay, Illinois first quarter point spread is a play we're going to go with, right? So we'll go with it. So I don't think their first quarter point spreads are available in some states. I never have them on FanDuel when I see them, but I know some people bet them because there's bet tracker data on them. So I don't know, but I don't have it in my location, so I'm skipping it. You got some MLS, right? Same concepts apply. There's no difference in the math, which is really what's great about OddsJam, right? Like if you look at, kind of all our bets we have on college football, NHL, college football, UFC, doesn't matter, right? It's all the same concepts. Sportsbooks charge, depending on the market and how, basically like 3.5 to 7% VIG. That's the sportsbook's advantage on you. On every market, basically. Some markets are more, but 3.5 to 7% is the advantage the sportsbook has on you. So it's really just like, how do you beat that, right? Like, how do you beat the VIG? How do you beat the juice and get a leg up? And it really is just about finding value. And I'm sure there are people out there who, know MLS really well and maybe can get like a slight edge, but there's nothing easier and better for every single sport than just following the math, following the markets, following the data, right? Maybe there is some guy who watches highlight reels of Chinese basketball all day long and he can just like look at lines and beat them. Maybe, but definitely not for the NFL. Definitely not, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars bet on the NFL every week. It's like being like, oh, I know for a fact the price of Facebook should be higher. It's like, no, like it's a very efficient market. Millions of dollars are being traded. You don't know anything, right? So that's very similar with NFL. So what else do we have? Stanford on the first quarter money line. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, we got LSU. We have Florida State plus 150, against NC State. We have them plus 3.5 on the spread. Looks really good. DraftKings, Bet Online, Pinnacle all have it juiced to minus 105. So we'll play some bets here in a second, just kind of browsing through, showing people what's up. And we'll find some plays to lock in, and happy Friday as well. So Chase Claypool, over 2.5 receptions, right? It's like minus 140, minus 164, like just clear value. This bet would be plus EV to every single sports book listed here. So maybe we dabble in it, right? And we've been tracking our profit and loss kind of on all of these plays. Let's go to the Steelers game. I don't really like Claypool. I feel like this guy overall has managed to lose for me. But again, that's the whole point of like OddsJam is, not focusing on these things that are just variance, stuff like that. Like, not every bet wins. It's just kind of how it is. And if you lose a bet 5 times in a row on one team, or you win a bet 5 times in a row on one team, It's just kind of part of the game, right? So that's the first bet we'll lock in. And on these live streams, if you were to tail every single thing I bet, and it was all in live stream, you'd be up 3.7K. Not saying we won't have some losing days, but we'll be up and to the right overall. So we got Chase Claypool over 2.5 receptions. We hit it for 125 at minus 140 odds. And then this bet is for Sunday. So you'll notice we have some prize picks in there, tons of different sports books. So you got to get more books, right? Like that's like key number one of sports betting. If you don't have FanDuel, you don't get this bet, right? It's just not available at a decent price. And if you're placing bets at minus 180, anyone who isn't line shopping and is just betting, like this is the worst bet of all time. Chase Claypool over 2.5 receptions at minus 180. I don't even care if it wins. It's just such a horrible price. It's horrible, right? Like based on where all the other books are. So even if this bet wins, you're the worst sports bettor of all time because, it's kind of like drunk driving and meeting your wife on the way home. Still a horrible decision to drunk drive, but you met your wife on the way home. I don't know. Maybe that's a terrible example, but you get the point. Just because you drove home extremely intoxicated and you made it home alive and you didn't get arrested doesn't mean it was a good decision to not call an Uber, right? And if you call an Uber and the Uber driver it was creepy, whatever. It doesn't mean it was a terrible decision to Uber. It was a good decision. Your Uber driver was just creepy. So it's kind of the same thing in sports betting. You make great bets all the time. Some will lose, but you have the edge, so you win in the long run. That I'm unsure about, but hopefully soon. So we locked in our first play, the Android player prop app. That should be coming soon, but we got to work a bit more on it. So here you can see an arbitrage. That bet's incredible, but I already bet it. So I can't rebet it, unfortunately. We got all sorts of bets on this game. We got Oklahoma plus 9, $5,000. Now it's plus 8.5 in a positive EV bet. So a lot of opportunity out there that hopefully you can take advantage of. Jalen Hurts under 20.5 for completions on Thrive Fantasy. Devonta Smith. Ooh, I do kind of like this. Smith under 4.5 receptions. Who likes it? I mean, kind of like it. So that's an option. Dalton over 3.5 receptions. So there's a lot of plays out there right now. Western Michigan minus 5. Honestly, this probably is a bet I should dabble in considering I have Eastern Michigan plus 5.5. Could middle it. Minus 102, minus 102. Texas A&M minus 12.5. Or I apologize. Alabama minus 12.5 on the first half spread. A lot of bets, right? Following markets, following data. So, and again, a lot of people are confused like, well, how is it possible to make money sports betting? And it's like, well, most bets aren't profitable. If you go to Caesars, if we just look at one NFL game, you have all this crap you can bet on. First touchdown score, anytime, 2 or more, right? You have these half props. You have these quarter props. You have these alternate lines. I mean, you can bet on the Giants minus, Packers minus 23.5. You can bet on all this stuff, right? This is like, 50 different bets, even just in the alternate lines. All this stuff you can bet on. Then alternate totals is probably like another 150 bets, whatever you can bet on. Over 26, 27. Blah, blah, blah. So like sportsbooks can't keep everything in check. Right? There's probably for this one game just on Caesars, there's probably like thousands of odds. That's one game. They can't keep everything in check. So what OddsGM does is just scan all of the lines for, okay, where is that value mathematically, right? Same with Underdog Fantasy. Most bets aren't profitable, right? Sportsbooks charge the juice. They charge the vig. Most bets aren't profitable. But, they screw up every once in a while, such as James Conner under 3.5 receptions. Oklahoma plus 8.5, minus 102. Bet in bold with a circle around it, all the bets you want to play. Texas A&M, Alabama, first quarter total points under 10.5. Great bet to be on. So, it's really just about following the data. At least it works, right? Maybe there are people who can just watch Chinese basketball and win long term. That sounds really complicated. I'd rather just follow the math and win long term because that's a lot easier, right? So here's an example of an interesting one, right? Like Wake Forest is -6.5 on the first quarter point spread against Army. You can get them -4.5 on FanDuel. So can I literally not bet first quarter because that bet seems incredible? And if you think about it, it's like I can't even see this game. I think it's because it's a New York team. Maybe you can't bet on New York teams in New York, or I don't know. They all have weird rules on this. But if you can bet this, it's like, why would you want to bet this? It's like, okay, every sports book has Wake Forest -6.5, heavily juiced. So this -108 is positive EV, even if it were -6.5, it would look really good. Not really good, but it would look good. And you're getting -4.5. This bet's incredible, right? If Wake Forest wins the first quarter by 6 points, you win. Everyone else loses. So you're getting a ton of value being able to get Wake Forest -4.5 at -108. That's an incredible bet. So we'll go back here and see if there's any other middles. A little annoying that we can't place all the bets we want, but is what it is. So what we can do is just kind of check everything out. So here it's like lines are ripping towards Western Michigan, like absolutely ripping towards them. So what we can do is just like kind of check out all the lines, see if there's any plays we want to go with. So, right, every sports book has this favored. So we're looking at all the data in the market, and it's like, yeah, everyone has this favored. We can get Western Michigan -5.5. So I guess I got to cover my previous bet on them and go to Western Michigan -5. Fuck. And it's locked. Some events are suspended. I don't know if that's intentional or if they are doing that for everything. Maybe they're doing that for everything. Maybe I got to reload. Sometimes it's not clear what's going on. Sometimes they just like shut down all their odds. So it looks like right now you can't bet on everything. They just locked everything on this platform. Does OJ offer access to historical CLV odds? I don't know what that means, but we have CLV on the site. It's just historical lines. Yeah. Is Randall your best handicapper? I don't know. Probably depends on the sport. Win won't load for me. Yeah, it's strange. But anyways, we can go back here. We can see if anything's out there. It is a little annoying when sportsbooks just get shut down and you really like a bet, but part of the game. So we can go back here to New York, see what's out there, if anything we want to play. A lot of college football. Come on, baby. Load up. Nope. So not going to load up. George Pickens under 3.5 receptions on PointsBet. That looks incredible. There are a lot of bets out there. Baker Mayfield under half of a passing touchdown. Looks good. So, kind of up to you to Aaron Jones under 11.5 rushing attempts. Sometimes it's a little more of an art than a science, like how do we feel about this? There's 2 sports books that have posted odds. Bet online is definitely sharper. They're at -102. You can definitely bet this. It's probably good, but it's not as clear. So anyways, we locked in one bet, which is in the sheets below, kind of with all the open bets we have on. Chase Claypool over 2.5 receptions. Hopefully next time I lock in a lot more bets. I'm kind of tired. It's Friday. I got to go to bed. But great meeting you all, and we'll chat soon.